And then of course Petra Harms. She's been in the front lines of artificial intelligence. She's a practicing veterinarian, which I love. I always feel like that perspective is so important to have people that are actually in the field, in the trenches, working, doing the work, and also expanding the knowledge on these other things on top of that. I respect that a lot. And she also created Vetmed, which um, there's a website, vetmed.com, you all can visit. It's a, you know, really, really interesting, the information there about artificial intelligence and governance and guardrails we need to set. And you know you're definitely welcome to visit that website. And I think I've never said this, but anybody watching or watching later, please subscribe to our channel, because I feel like that way we can reach more people.
Smash that subscribe button.
Yeah,
Smash it.
just like real hard. And if you need to pause it and go subscribe and then come back to the podcast, that would be great. It just takes like 2 seconds. So, and then just don't break the screen, because then I'll feel bad.
Or break it.
Still mash it, right?
Mash or smash. Yeah, like you're playing Nintendo when you're a kid and you just smash it.
Yeah. The Mario Party games, I don't know if you're familiar, where you press the button as hard as you can and fast. That's pretty much what Greg means, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, I want to start this because the intro, I hate intros. I want to go down to the information because it's what really matters. Nobody cares about the intro. So last year we were talking about how things changed like every day, every hour, about artificial intelligence. And a year later, I think that so much has happened that it's hard to really pick what's important, what's not. But one part that I think is very interesting is how the transition has come from experimental artificial intelligence to actually the practical use in the clinics. And that's the question I want to start with, Dr. Petra. How did that transition has gone from experimental, idealistic world of artificial intelligence to actually what's happening down in the trenches? How is that transition going?
So we were, thanks for that, John. I appreciate the intro. We were just talking with you and Chris before we went live here. There has been a shift in the last year, 2 years. There's been a lot of adoption, especially of things that make little differences for people. So things like AI scribes. I personally do use a large language model to help me create discharge instructions and things like that for owners and pet parents. And so I think AI is becoming native in a lot of ways. It's becoming integrated into certain EMR systems. So it's becoming, as we talked about before, a part of the furniture, I suppose, just a part of the background for a lot of clinics. And I mean, that's got some good and bad features. The good is that there is documented increase in efficiency, maybe not as much as is advertised. I mean, there is especially with the scribes, there is some time savings, and I also think there's some undocumented brain space savings, I suppose, where you're not trying to keep a whole bunch of information in your short-term memory while you're going about your day before you can write it down. But it's not as much as it could be, because there is a certain labor that comes from double checking your notes and making sure that the scribe hasn't gotten things wrong. I think the one thing I'd like to talk about today, and we're going to get a bit esoteric and up here, but it's an important conversation, is where the responsibility lies and what that implies for veterinarians in the veterinary industry. So once we kind of finish talking a little bit about the questions that you have to ask, then I'd love to touch base on accountability, responsibility, and how we're positioning our vets in the industry. Is that something we can talk about now, or is that something you'd like to chat about later?
Whatever you want to talk about. This is your stage right now. So I'll probably start with everything you have to offer.
Yeah.
That's like gold, and then we'll have our questions after. I think that's good, right, Bill?
I'm here for
Sounds
what Petra has to say.
Yep.
Smash it, Petra, smash it.
Okay,
Yeah.
smash it. I sucked at the Nintendo games. I just didn't have the thumb power. So let's start. And I gave a little preview in John's LinkedIn post of a picture of a car crash.
Yeah,
And
that has me worried.
Don't be worried. It's just a reference to crumple zones. Have you guys? I'm sure you've heard of crumple zones in automobile accidents. Yeah. Okay. So for those people who might be watching, a crumple zone in a vehicle is an area where the physical integrity of the vehicle is made so that it crumples first and absorbs the force of the crash in order to protect the people inside, the passengers inside the vehicle, right? And there are two articles, and right now I'm writing a textbook on the safe and effective use of artificial intelligence. It's going to be released later this year by Springer Nature. But as part of the research, I've run into two articles that just blew my mind in their simplicity and in how beautifully they got to the point. And the first one was by Madeline Ellish in 2019, and I'll share these after the talk. And she talks about what we call moral crumple zones, and she coined the term. And I think you can see where we're going here. When humans are combined with complex machine systems, whether they be machine systems on the computer screen or physical machine systems. She says that there's a tendency for the human to become a moral crumple zone rather than the machine absorbing any kind of blame or responsibility for malfunctions. The tendency is for media, as well as the people who are at higher levels, to blame the nearest operator. And I mean, just thinking about that blew my mind, right? It's something that we are potentially seeing in the veterinary industry, and I'll expand on it. So Dr. Ellish used a couple of examples in her article, and with each of these examples, what you see is a complex machine that has humans working within it that are supposed to provide oversight and that human in the loop element. But the design of those machines is such that it doesn't make it easy for the humans to provide that oversight. And because of that, when those humans make mistakes, they are, in a large part, they are a product of how that machine has been designed to interact with the human. And when push comes to shove, and there is an assignment of blame or responsibility for the malfunction, it tends to fall on the human. So instead of this being a crumple zone in a vehicle where the vehicle crumples to protect the human operator, what we're ending up with is a moral crumple zone where the human and their accountability and their responsibility, those are crumpled, those are sacrificed in order to protect the reputation, integrity, or what have you of the system. You're seeing a loss of accountability towards the system and the way that it is designed to work with humans at the expense of, well, the operator should have been paying more attention. Well, there was human error, right? Human error comes up a lot, right? But less of a focus on why did that human error happen? What was it?
So when I run a lab test and there's a lab error, I feel like we can justify that a lot easier. Like, people are used to lab errors, for example, right, in general. And I feel like with artificial intelligence now, if I run a diagnostic and I have a list of diagnoses and I pick one there, I feel like it's harder to say, well, there was a LLM error, or Claude made an error in my diagnosis here. So I feel like for some reason it's easier to blame a lab error or some kind of technical thing on other things other than artificial intelligence. Almost like there's more disconnect between the human and the machine in a lab machine, but then in AI, it's like almost like the human is more in control than the machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Well,
and
you see this too in, for example, let's use your example of lab error, great example, John. Put this aside and think about how you are told to prompt Claude or Gemini or whatever it is that you're wanting to use. If you end up with an output that just makes no sense, who gets the blame? You do. You're told you didn't prompt well enough. You need to learn to prompt better. You need to get better at whatever it is you're doing so that the machine can produce good results, right? Whereas
Right.
if you're getting lab error, right, you're not told, well, you need to get better at submitting samples. There's a standardized way of submitting samples, and as long as you follow those instructions, the machine should do what it's told to do, right? I'm not saying that I have the solutions as to what needs to be done to make these machines better and more reliable without blaming the human, but I want to draw attention to the fact that humans are becoming the crumple zones when it comes to interaction with AI technology, and that's actually been expanded on. There's a very recent article, 2026, by Dr. Chorosevich. I hope I pronounced that right. Who talks
better
about
than me, for sure.
well, she talks about how doctors are now being positioned as these crumple zones. So this takes that idea of the moral crumple zone being the human in the AI human interaction, expands it to medicine, and specifically with the use of AI in medicine. Now what you're seeing is you're seeing doctors getting the blame for things that go wrong with AI. And we're seeing that in veterinary medicine as well. So veterinarians are basically told anything that can go wrong with AI is your fault. Think about that for a second. We do not have the knowledge. We do not have the training. Hopefully we'll get there. I mean, we're working on it. We do not have the authority or the influence over the industry in order to properly and confidently vet these tools. And yet we are accepting these tools and absolutely nodding our heads when somebody says, okay, use this. You have no influence over how well it works. But anything that goes wrong, it's your fault. So how do we reconcile that? How do we reconcile the fact that, yes, we do have to own the medical outcomes of these cases, but we, as an industry, as a group of professionals, we don't have the accumulated knowledge, experience, and understanding of what's what this technology is and how it works in order to do that effectively. And I'm going to switch tracks a little bit and talk a little bit about accountability and responsibility. We're familiar with accountability and responsibility. Anybody who's practiced knows that accountability is where the buck stops. And typically it's the veterinarian in the room. If you're in a clinic, the veterinarian is the one that if shit rolls downhill, then it stops at you, right? If something goes wrong medically with a patient, it doesn't matter if it was the technician assistant, the receptionist, or the technician who made the mistake. The responsibility for that error is assigned to you, and you are accountable. You answer to the consequences of that, and that is absolutely right. I think that's not something any of us can argue, right? As part of that accountability, we have responsibilities to make sure that things go right in a vet clinic, right? We make sure that our staff are trained properly. We make sure that certain things are supervised appropriately. We make sure that we do things correctly by writing down information instead of spitballing it verbally, right? We do all of these things. We carry out responsibilities, and we also delegate responsibilities because we can't do things solo all the time. And again, that's right, and that has been a working system for a very, very long time. So we have responsibilities, we delegate responsibilities for good quality patient care and outcomes, but we carry accountability. The deal is, the unconscious agreement is that in order for us to have that accountability, in order for us to accept and carry that accountability, we have to have the power to carry out our responsibilities. We have to be able to tell the technicians, hey, hold off on doing that treatment, or tell the clinic manager, listen, I think that technician assistant, she or he is still very early in their training. I'd like them to hold off on doing, let's say, restraint for nail trims or what have you. We have an implicit authority to make sure that the responsibilities are carried out so that we can be accountable successfully. Now let's take a look at veterinarians in the AI sphere and veterinarians in just the broader profession. And what we have accountability for the outcomes of our human AI interaction. We have responsibilities that we haven't quite discussed yet, and we have no authority.
I was going to ask, I think we have the authority to use it or not use it, but not to tune the machine, really. I think it's like, you could walk or drive, but can I fix my car? It's like, no. So like it's like an all in or all out. Like you either subject yourself to it right now or not.
And that's a dichotomous choice, right? We are told that you can either use it and accept all accountability, but you don't have control. You don't have the information that you need necessarily. And the industry is working on it. I know you're part of the task force there.
Should be.
So the industry is working on it, and we are starting to learn about it. But the choice at this stage is a pretty unfair one. We're being told either use it, accept accountability without any of the authority to make things work the way we think they should work in the industry, or just don't benefit from it. Use it or walk, right? How do we get around that? One of the things, and again, I don't have solutions, but one of the things that we should consider is that there are, and this is a call out to leadership, this is a call out to industry leaders, governing bodies, things like that. There are ways that these governing bodies and leaders can make the job of the veterinarian easier when they are taking accountability, because we've been told by these leaderships, we are accountable, right? So how are you going to make that job easier for us? How can we be accountable if we have responsibilities that we don't understand yet and we have no authority over this industry? One of the things that we can do is we can split the accountability. We can say, okay, we will be absolutely accountable for the medical outcomes of our cases, because of course that's right and that's established, and that's not something I'm arguing with. But we can say, listen, we can't be accountable for vetting these technologies and making sure that they do their privacy and data due diligence, and they're making sure that they have quality research outcomes. We just do not have the power to do that as a bunch of individual veterinarians practicing. So split that accountability, make it easier for us. And one of the ways that you can do that is establish certain certification programs that are accepted by the higher levels of governance, right? That say, okay, if a tool does this, and this, then we give it a certification of data safety, data privacy, what have you. The FDA is doing that for human medicine. They are not doing it for us. And one of the reasons the FDA does it for human medicine is because individual doctors cannot be held accountable for the nitty-gritty of the functioning of the drugs that they use. There's just not enough power there. There's not enough authority there, right? So that's number one. We can absolutely split the accountability, right? Now, number two, and I was going to try to figure out what number two was. It escapes my mind right now. But basically, the role or the description of that accountability needs to be expanded on. Right now, it's all being dumped on the clinicians and the people using the AI, and that needs to be changed. That needs to be adjusted, because that is more than a practicing body of veterinarians can do. They can learn, and absolutely, I think they really do need to learn. Otherwise, I wouldn't be writing a text. But even knowing what I know or what you know, you have no influence over what providers must bring to the table in terms of proof of good data practices, proof of ethical practices, things like that. We have to get somebody else to take on that accountability, and the industry leaders need to make that easier. Oh, that's number two. The second way that industry leadership can make accountability easier for us is by making it easier for us to carry out our responsibilities. So, number one, we don't know what our responsibilities are. Practicing veterinarians do not know that. So we need to get industry leadership, our governing bodies, our associations, to provide more aggressive outreach that tells us, here's what you need to know, and here's how we're going to provide that for you. Make it easier for us to carry out those responsibilities, because that will, again, lower the burden on practicing veterinarians who just need to know if and when they can use these tools. That way, what we'll end up with is, as we adopt these tools and as they become more native to us, and scribes and GPT programs are becoming a lot more native, we'll be able to shoulder that accountability a lot better, the accountability that sits with us, without risking becoming those moral crumple zones. So that's my soapbox.
I have a couple of questions about that, because it's very interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way, to be honest, and I like that higher level. If I'm going to ask you to dumb it down a little bit for me in terms of what this looks like in a concrete example. So, for example, the way that I use AI in practice right now, and I agree about, ultimately it's the clinician's responsibility, right, for medical outcomes. But I'm very curious about, when you talk about data usage and all of that stuff, how should I be thinking about this? I use ChatGPT. I turned off data sharing. So as far as I'm aware, the data is not going back into the model. I'm not sharing any confidential information with anybody. But is there some other way I should be thinking about this? Because when I put my stuff in there, I do double check the output, and I do try to feel ultimately responsible for everything, but I'm not, maybe there's something else that I'm missing that it would be beneficial to be thinking about. Or does that question make any sense?
Oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So specifically with GPT, I haven't used it in a little while, but in addition to turning off your data sharing, take a close look at the terms of use agreement, because what can happen is you can turn off certain types of data sharing, but there may still be a use of your data for training future models, for example. So really take a close look at your terms of use agreement, and what happens with the information you put into ChatGPT. So that's number one. Number two, yes, obviously no names, dates, identifying information of pet name, addresses, credit card numbers, email addresses, all of that. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to expand this a little bit, because we're not just talking about ChatGPT. We're talking about scribes. We're talking about certain medical recommendation assistants that are coming out. We're talking about we've got the imaging interpretation and things like that. So veterinarians at this moment are charged with making sure that their client data is private. And to this point, it's been pretty logical. I mean, up until electronic health records existed, you had a paper folder. I'm old enough to remember the paper folders, guys. So you had a paper folder, and that paper folder stayed in the clinic, and you did not photocopy it or fax it anywhere without the owner's permission, and you didn't take it outside of the clinic unless certain things were safety requirements were met, right? And that was data privacy. And then EHRs happened, and then the concept became an electronic data concept, but you still didn't send records without an owner's permission, or you didn't share information about a case with identifiers with the general public. You don't take photos of patients and post them on social media without permission, right? So the concept of data privacy did expand a little bit, but the idea was still the same. It was, you are, as a veterinarian, duty bound, according to most, if not all, of your association commitments, to protect the data and privacy of your client. And that also interacts with certain, small business laws and regulations that are not veterinary specific. Now we're using cloud-based tools, and those cloud-based tools are often, because they are so compute intensive, we are sending data out to a some kind of service that then provides AI interpretations that then sends them back to us. They send back the results to us. What we as veterinarians don't recognize is that because we're vets, we're not computer people. I mean, I'm not a computer person, right? We just see the data that we see in front of our faces, but that data is now going through multiple channels where it's changing hands and it's going off site. And if we don't do our job, we don't know what the security protocols are for that sending process, the encryption, and how is that data being saved and protected by the offsite service, right? What are their protocols? The problem here is that our understanding of data security and privacy is very on the screen in front of us, and we are being positioned to be accountable for that data leaving the clinic and being shared or stolen or copied off-site, even though we don't know about it. But we are accountable for that. Veterinarians are positioned as that moral crumple zone where we are told we are responsible for what happens to that data, even when it's being sent offsite and to this remote service before it gets sent back to us. But we are not being taught about that. We are not being given tools to, some kind of certification that says, yes, this service or this company is compliant with X, Y, Z.
So I had a question. I had some trouble with my connection, so I went to get my butt to get some help from him, and he helped me get my connection back online. But before I left, I had a question, Petra. Do you think it's dangerous that the practice management softwares are integrating AI and exposing the vets to that without having any knowledge how to protect themselves? Like, do you think putting it out there in everybody's hands is a little bit of a disservice to the veterinarian?
I don't think it's consciously dangerous. I don't think there's any malicious entity that's saying, yes, we are going to take advantage of their ignorance, right? But I do think it is a dangerous industry oversight, 100%. And the big question is not just how do we fix it, but who is in charge of fixing it? Because we're talking about a systematic problem. We're not talking about a one clinic at a time problem.
Gotcha. And I feel like the more go ahead, Bill.
I don't want to ask Petra a question that's going to give away like the Vetmate secrets that she teaches like for pay and like is rightfully earning money to do. But would you be willing to talk? And you can say no. Um, would you be willing to talk about like, so what is somebody like? What do we do about it on the individual level? Like, not just what is happening, but like, okay, what do I do today to CYA, right? Like, and then what do we do at the profession level to do the same? Because like Vetmed versus big tech, we're gonna lose. Like we're gonna get smoked.
Yeah.
So I like, so what can we do at the professional level to protect ourselves, but also take advantage of the opportunities presented?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I have a 250-page text that's coming out eventually that you can read, and actually, I'll send, if I can get some free copies, I'll send one to you guys. But the short answer to your question is that this is going to sound so wrong. You need to become a little bit healthily paranoid. And
it's not paranoia if someone's out to get you.
Yes, that's one of my favorite sayings. And by that, I mean, again, it's not that anybody's out to get you, but nobody's looking out for you.
Right. I think that's the issue.
Recognize that nobody is looking out for you. And until or unless somebody does, you have to look out for yourself. So what that looks like in a general practice situation is sitting down with your technology and with the things that you are using that are AI based, and asking where things could go wrong, not just for somebody like yourselves, and I'm including the whole group here because you're all very technologically savvy. I mean, look at our platform, right? Not just yourselves. And Bill and I had a conversation. Not everybody runs at your speed, right? I mean, you're talking about AI adoption throughout your clinic and your facility. You're talking about the senior veterinarian who just hates using the computer, and you're also talking about the 17-year-old technician assistant who is doing this because they love animals, right? So not everybody runs at your ethical, your cognitive, your paranoia speed. Not everybody runs at that speed, and that's
every time I'm like, oh man, nobody would ever do that. 2 days later, Petra posts a news story about how this happened at a major company. And I'm like, oh man, here we go.
Yeah.
Like again, it's like, yep, nope, somebody did that.
Yeah.
Like the woman at Meta who's like the head of AI, or was, I don't know if she still is, who like nuked her own email with a chatbot. And it was like, yeah. I'm like,
it was an agent. It was an agent. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That gets us into a whole other thing. But that's not, I don't want to drag people who are not up to this speed, because everybody is skilled in different things, right? I mean, there are different intelligences for a reason, but what you do have to keep in mind is that there are different intelligences. And so when you are assessing the potential risks of the technology that you're taking in, you have to be paranoid, not just on your own behalf, but on the behalf of the people that you work with and who will be using that tech. And once you've put on your paranoid tin hat, and I have actually put on a tin hat in one of the fireside chats that I've had at a
Where
conference.
is it? I would love to see your tin hat. We have to do that next year then.
Oh Lordy. But once you've done that, there is 100% a systematic process where you go through the potential risks that come with this AI technology. And those can be things like data risks. They can be things like ethical risks. They can be things like medical risks. You've got the potential for bias. You've got all sorts of risks that can come up. And you identify the risks that this can pose to all of the players in the system. So not just the client or the patient, but also to yourself as a veterinarian, your junior vet that may not learn appropriately if they are relying too much on XYZ, or your veterinary clinic, right? What is the implication to your veterinary clinic if you are accused of leaking data, right? So all of these things, they need to be sat down with and cataloged before you start using the system. If I was going to make one recommendation that is an actionable one, and I'm actually not sorry to the AI tech companies that are out there, a model card, a really good descriptive model card that talks about the training data, the performance of the system, the potential risks, all of that. That is a real existing phenomenon that exists. It is a technical tool that AI providers will provide to people purchasing their technology. Request a model card. Request the model card. Sit down with it. Look at the information. Look at the performance of the system. Look at the information that is provided and not provided on that model card. Start your discussion about risks with that. And if the company can't provide a model card, ask them to make one, right? One simple change that where the power is in your hands to be able to at least take back a little bit of that authority that allows you to then accept accountability.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Petra, because I use AI more and more now, and I used to use it for like maybe client handouts and easy things like that. Now I'm going into, trying to experiment with a little bit of radiology, a little bit of some of my notes, and I'm more aware now, thanks to your comments there, that we're kind of alone. It's us and the LLM, and there's somebody that's gonna be like, hey, you're making a mistake here. So being prepared in the front end, I think is really important. So part of
Petra's too polite.
yeah, go ahead.
I'll let you, because we do have to talk about radiology, but Petra's too polite to do this. But like, Vetmate is designed for like the practice owner or the practitioner who doesn't know these things and is like, hey, I got to learn how to drive safely, right? I don't have to be an F1 driver, but I got to be able to get to and from where I'm going in this new world. And I think Petra's done it really well. I think it's a really valuable resource. I think if you're looking for something that is like, she's got the textbook coming out, but the lectures, the talks, the everything you're doing there are really useful. If you're enthusiastic about it, if you're cautious about it, if you're early in your journey or you haven't started yet with AI, like, I'd start with Vetmate. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah,
I'm gonna update, and Billy, that's really kind. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm gonna update it. I am going to update it a little bit. Far be it for me to plug another company, but I do recommend LifeLearn. I've done a course with them on AI, essentially responsible AI governance, and that covers a lot of this information that we touched base on briefly here when I answered Bill your question. But it talks about how you can evaluate the tool that you are using and how you can create a risk analysis framework and then put it all together into a proper working plan. And it is for veterinarians that are just practicing vets that may not know the first thing about AI. I will update you the library, the course library. It was a good start. I ended up taking it off because it wasn't good enough. So I do have plans eventually to improve it, but in terms of where to go for basic literacy and how to implement this AI, LifeLearn does have two, I believe they're 1-hour courses that I teach, and they are a really good resource for you guys, for anybody who is wondering how they can start managing these risks. And in terms of more complex concepts, I definitely suggest that if you've got multiple companies, or if you've got a big project coming out and you're wondering how to make it work, that's more like a one-on-one kind of discussion of what are your specific risk factors, right?
Are you doing consulting?
Pardon me?
Are you available for consulting these days?
Yes, I am available for consulting after the text is done. This manuscript has got to get off my back, but that'll be hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
There you go. Now you all know you can always reach out to Dr. Petra and get some consulting as well.
Yeah.
And then
Can we talk about radiology?
Yes. Yes, please.
I had a question for Greg. I feel like Greg's being a little too quiet, and I'm gonna target him now. What do you think is the best you get out of AI at the different clinics you go to, Greg? Like from last year to this year, is there anything that you feel like is the most helpful out of all the stuff you do at the clinic?
Yes. So discharges are the best. I think that's like pure laziness just coming out. So I work GP and ER. I always send home written discharges, and it used to take me 5 to 10 minutes each time. And now I've kind of trained my GPT to be able to input my SOAP notes and I have a discharge template, and I just say, hey, this client seems particularly anxious, or hey, this client, wants a lot of information, or hey, this client wants very simple, or hey, this client doesn't seem to, my impression of this client is that they're not really quite getting the seriousness of this. So please stress, the importance of a recheck. And I put all that stuff in there. Written discharges aren't always something that is going to make or break owner follow-up or compliance, but when it's tailored to them and it's got the pet's name in there and it's written for them specifically, I find it helps a lot. And writing that stuff is hard for me to do, just sitting there, tap, 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 tap each individual key. Right. So I find that the AI generates these customized, tailored discharges really well. And I like that a lot. So that's a big one. I also, when I'm in GP and I send a lot of follow-up emails, hey, here's what we talked about. Here's some stuff to think about. It helps with that a lot. So I think for that follow-up, it's fantastic. You don't want to be too verbose, but you want it to be right. You want to use your intuition about what this client is going to actually want or not. So for me, it just saves me a ton of time, works really well for that. The other way I use it, to be totally honest, is I try to get a good prompt where it's really thinking like a clinician, and it's just only using, as far as I know, hopefully good resources. I have found when I've done some sort of informal quality control testing on it, it's generally very good. There was I don't know if we want to talk about this paper that came out in JABMA that they looked at the different GPT models, and I think it was like a theriogenology test, and
I was reading that.
But sometimes when I'm noticing that I'm getting fatigued in a long shift, or I'm just overwhelmed or something like that, I'm not sure. I don't quite trust my thinking. I'll put in my notes and I'll say, hey, like, any red flags here, any like major things, and I don't have a percentage on it, but every once in a while it'll say like, hey, did you think about this? Or, did you test for lepto, or did you think about lepto? And I'll be like, oh my gosh, I got to check. I got to check on vaccine status or something like that. So, I want to have a good relationship with that, because sometimes I'm like, well, is this just enabling me being lazy, which I will take any opportunity to be lazy that I can? Or is this like, no, this is a good thing, and it's a good double check. My colleagues are busy. My colleagues have stuff going on. So I do kind of like that feature, and it's been helpful in a number of cases as well.
Okay. What about for radiology? Use it for that at all?
It's radiology, in my opinion. But I just haven't. It never gets it right from what I've used. But I'm totally ignorant on the good usage of it.
I'm with you. I used to, maybe a couple of years ago, we were trying some different companies, and I feel like it was very hit or miss. I could have maybe somebody a couple of years out of school do better. Yeah. So I feel like the early on part of radiology was not very impressive to me. I don't know if Bill, have you played with it more? Do you know, do you feel like it's helpful at all?
I did exactly the thing with AI radiology that I warned people against doing with LLMs, like use like an early or cheap or bad model, and then decide it doesn't work and never look at it again. And I absolutely what I did with radiology, with the AI stuff. The urgent care we just opened, somebody signed up for the I won't say who's free trial, and um, it's I think it's a nice to have rather than a need to have. It doesn't. It's it's I like I appreciate having it, but it's not um like with the scribe, for example. I never want to write records from scratch again, right? Like I never want to do that again. But if you took
Right.
the AI radiology away, I'd be like, bummer. But I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't lose a lot of sleep over it.
So my first job, we were like a total of 15 vets, but like sometimes we had X-rays. We were looking at X-rays, and it was like 4 or 5 of us. And I feel like AI is like the third vet that it's like, hey, what about this little thing down here? Like kind of like it's the last final check of maybe something that you might miss, just to kind of double check yourself. Similar to what Greg was saying about your differentials and your flow, and let's see if I miss something. And I feel like it's one of the things people use it the most, but it still needs a lot of validation and a lot of safety behind it, and a lot of like not really taking the read like 100% true.
I do think
And
some of the
yeah.
companies have gotten better about the transparency. I think they heard the criticism and responded to it. Like you were standing with me when we looked at Vitology down at VMX, and like they're transparent now, right? Like they
Yeah.
are. They heard the criticism and responded to it, which
Yeah, they have.
is encouraging. Like, is it a finished product? Like, I don't think it's ever going to be a finished product, but like they are, at least some of the companies are trying.
Right. And there's
That's
something new.
encouraging.
We actually have a guest, special guest. It's kind of last minute. Here's Soledad Alborno. She's a AI expert, and she's working with a company, Diagnovet AI, that's doing ultrasound reads now too. So I don't know if you guys have dealt with that at all, but I'd like Soledad to kind of let us know a little bit about like why would we even want to do ultrasound AI reads.
Okay, hi everyone. I think the technology is getting to the point where we can ask AI to give us that second opinion on what it sees in the images and in the videos. We talk about how from a full video, maybe a quick scan, a fast that you do in an animal, like ultrasound is easy to do, and you don't need to sedate the animal. And if you have a portable ultrasound, it's so easy to have just a confirmation visual if there is a mass, if there is a problem. So AI now can understand better videos and images, and we can detect these things. You mentioned about few years ago, like only 5 years ago, the only technology for that was called CNN, which are these networks that are trained to classify like it's a cat or not a cat, it's a dog or not a dog. They were very simple segment things. Now with LLMs and transformers, there is a lot of more capabilities. You can relate things inside of an image or compare two images or understand how the video is moving and what are the relationship between the shadows and the contrast on each of the images, and use that to do a better understanding of what is happening there. But I think what you are talking about, how do we make sure this technology works, it's so important. And how do we make sure that privacy is at the level that we need is so important. I wanted to tell you that ChatGPT and Gemini, both of them, if you use your work email, not the Gmail regular account, but if you use the at yourcompany.com email, that is, they cannot use that data or those chat to train ever. It's in their policy. So if you are using those tools, try to use your workspace emails on your workspace, because that
They're more
you are
private.
sure that is not used for train. Yes.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that would be a good tip if you are using those models. But we try to ask ChatGPT or Gemini, understand these images or these ultrasound videos, and the accuracy, the sensitivity is below 30%. It's very low.
I
So
just had an idea. Could we get it where, you know, when I log into whatever website and it gives me a grid and I have to pick out what's a bicycle and what's not? Could we have all the radiologists, every time they sign on to anything, to just give them a grid of like, is this free fluid? Is this a gallbladder edema? And they just click on it, and then we'll fix it. We'll train the AI so fast.
yes, okay.
I love this idea, but the radiologists already are not like fans of mine. So you can solo that one, Greg.
Well, and you're also assuming that they're going to give you a straight yes or no answer, and we know that that's not always.
Yeah.
We need to give them a multiple choice. We can't let them hedge.
Imaging in 12 hours. That's a great idea.
You hit the nail. You know why the accuracy is so bad if you put those images in ChatGPT or Gemini? Because they have not been trained with animal data.
Oh, okay.
They have seen in their training, they have seen some humans, some books about animal ultrasounds or X-ray. But they don't have millions and millions of images or 100,000 of images, which is what you need to train one of these models.
So they sound confident, but they actually have no idea what they're talking about?
Exactly,
Wow.
yes. And they can detect like triangular shapes, black shapes are usually fluids in an ultrasound. They can detect that, but it's not very accurate.
Soledad, can I ask a question? How close are we to a driver assisted or driver assist ultrasound machine where for example you have a scanner and you've got your wand and you're looking for XYZ organ or you're looking for a certain positioning of the probe on the chest to get a certain type of cardiac view, which drives me nuts. How close are we to having some kind of assistant that says use your probe and rotate it 13 degrees to the left? Tell me we're close.
Good question.
We saw a demo of that happening with ultrasound for gestational for pregnant women in humans a few days ago.
Okay. So how long before you get it set up?
What you need for that is you need to connect those AI models to the machine. So that's a problem because until you enable for every machine, it's going to be a lot. I think we are closer to you get a video with the ultrasound and the AI picks the frames where the important things are and it shows it to you. Mm-hmm. We are close to that.
So even though I didn't know I got the image, the AI knows I got the image.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, we can do that. That's with cool. We are very close to do that.
Yeah. So right now, how does it work? Like I go and I take images and I send those images to you guys, and then does it happen as I do the scan, or is it you send a file over to the AI and then you get a report back? How is the actual process?
You do the study, you send those files to our AI, and then we report. The report is generated in a few minutes, like 3 to 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and you get the report and you can edit it. And that's an important part of transparency. We need to use software that are made for veterinarians, not regular software. And then this software needs to point you to what it's telling and why, explain why we are saying there is, the enlarged pancreas. And see, these are the images where we see that the pancreas is big. Or you need to have also like quick user interface. Petra, you talk about user interface. So the user interface needs to allow the professional to see and confirm what we see. Not just report a PDF and that's it. You cannot change, you cannot see, you cannot review. The human needs to have the control. And that means the UI needs to be prepared for that. And
so once you get the report, you can change it to what your perspective and your assessment of the situation is as well. It's not like a final report. Okay.
it should not be, because you only see the image. You cannot see if the animal is walking perfectly or not. You just saw one X-ray. So the AI saw one X-ray, one image. It doesn't see how the animal is doing. There is no more context there.
I mean, it speaks to the fact that even when you're asking a veterinary colleague for an opinion, the first thing they're going to ask is about the signalment and the history, right? I mean, they're not going to just walk in and say, "Yep, that's a foreign body," and then walk out. Well, sometimes, but most of the time, they're going to want to know a context, right? And we can't expect anything different from our AI tools.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Soledad. I really appreciate you hopping in last minute and telling us about this new technology. I really wasn't aware this is a thing, and it's so available. I wanted other vets to know that, that if you're doing a lot of ultrasounds and you want to have some artificial intelligence backup, there is a way to get that as well. So I appreciate it. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome.
Well, that's exciting.
So that was cool. I had no idea that was going on.
In the next couple of weeks, we're going to get it set up on the machines and everything. I'm really excited.
I want to ask her if she has a model card.
What's that?
I want to ask her if she has a model card.
Yeah, you should have tagged her on that. Well,
I'll
give her a chance to set one up, and I'll tag you and post it when they come visit.
Perfect. Yeah. Love it.
We're coming down to like the final minutes. I don't know if you have extra time, Petra. I don't want to respect your time here. I know we're coming down to almost 12, but I feel like one thing that I really hope I see more is AI being taught in schools to the students that are about to go in the field as practicing veterinarians. Oh my God, Bill, for sure. I mean, that's really it's like the blind leading the blind, right? I think I would like to see a lot more education in schools and the students, but yeah, you're right, Bill.
I will say, I just watched Cornell University had their did a webinar on their their institution-wide AI implementation and architecture and everything, and it was thoughtful and professional and organized, and it was. I don't know if it's gonna measure up to Petra's standards, but I was impressed. It was like, this is, because I feel like right now a lot of institutions are just going yeah, I guess people are using it, or you're not allowed to at all. And Cornell seems to have a plan, a program. They have an associate director of AI. It looks like it's being done the right way.
Cornell is, 100%, Bill. I mean, Cornell is head and shoulders above anybody else. And I think it's just because they've got the staff that have the passion. I mean, they held the first Savvy, right? So they are the epicenter. And, even going back into the history of AI development, I mean, they've always been in the thick of things, right? So yeah, they're definitely the ones to watch for sure. I agree about the teaching of AI in schools, and I don't blame the professors per se, because if you think about, and again, I'm no dean, but if you think about curricula, you need science to underpin the structure of what is being taught. And if we don't have science, and by science, I mean, academia is strict for a reason, right? Peer-reviewed scientific journals are respected for a reason, especially these days. If you don't have science, then what are these professors supposed to teach their students? If they are held to certain rigorous academic standards, how are they supposed to teach their students if the science isn't there and it's not published? It's definitely accelerated. I would say even in the last 6 months. I have been, I mean, this is one of the reasons the manuscript's taking so long, is that things are coming out every month, and they're important scientific journal articles, not just in veterinary medicine, but in human medicine, in philosophy, in ethics, in law.
They're in the
right?
journal. They're in Nature. They're in, like these aren't niche articles. These are like, oh, this fundamentally changes how we understand this.
Yes,
And
exactly.
it's like, and that's different than last month.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So now there is some kind of scaffolding, right? There is some kind of material that these departments can start to really grab onto and say, okay, we're going to teach based on this. Before that, there was a lot of people with great ideas, which is fantastic, but within the very structured world of academia, how are you supposed to justify that, right? So it is slow. I think it's slow for a reason, and the job of those of us who are in the veterinary industry who can put the time in is to make sure that we support that process of reading those journal articles, spreading those journal articles, sharing them with people who may not be LinkedIn elites, right? But it does need to get better. 100% agree. And I'm going to have to look into Cornell's outline there, Bill, because that sounds like a fantastic.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it. I have one last. I know we're short on time. I have one last question for Petra, and I think you want to inform people in a way that like helps them make responsible decisions. But I also want to give you a chance to talk about like what about the AI and the development and the things we're seeing now, like, are you excited about? Like not in a like, oh my God, you all need to learn how to drive before you all crash. But like, what do you and like that's from a place of like moral responsibility and ethics and I think it's all from a good place, but I also want to give you a chance to be like, okay, this is really cool.
What am I stoked about?
Yeah.
Oh man. So assuming everything gets implemented right and
Sure.
we don't end up in the crumple zone.
Assuming not the AI apocalypse.
Yes. I love what Soledad, for example, is describing. I love the fact that I could one day pick up an ultrasound probe and not feel like I am guessing about positioning until I finally hit the lucky spot, right? I would love a driver assist for that. I think the democratization of more specialty-esque knowledge to a certain point is very, very promising because let's face it, people have less and less funds, and their pets need more and more high standards of care. So I think there is so much to be said for that kind of access to knowledge, and then the people who are the specialists can do what specialists need to do, right? I mean, they can focus on those really weird, hard cases that are beyond the ability of a primary care practitioner to devote the time and the mental space in their 18 primary care cases per day, right? I mean, you are allocating the right cases to the right specialists if you give a little bit more to the primary care practitioner, and this speaks back to. Actually, a specialist was a specialist and I had a conversation several years ago that said primary care veterinarians have become afraid of doing the hard things because it's become such a litigious society, and so having the access to a little bit of support would allow us to feel more confident about doing those harder things, especially as younger grads and veterinarians who are very risk averse. So that I think is huge. I think there is a lot of promise in the data that we can get from pets at home. And again, this comes with that whole caveat of assuming all of the moral and ethical and privacy parameters are protected. But
Sure.
we see our patients, and not just dogs and cats. I mean, we're talking wildlife. We're talking cattle. We're talking all sorts of animal life forms that can benefit from remote monitoring, and the amount of data and insight that we could get that could be easily synthesized in a way that that basically tells us, oh, hey, your pet is or this animal is at risk of XYZ disease, or it's showing signs of XYZ disease, and we could be way earlier in that discovery compared to waiting for owners to notice clinical signs, or waiting for the zookeeper to recognize that this primate or this sea lion is showing abnormal clinical signs. I mean, we could be so much better at this, and that also speaks to things like food security. It is documented. It is science. It is peer-reviewed, published journal articles say that healthier animals are more productive animals from whichever metric you want to use, whether it be milk production, whether it be
less antibiotic use, less
how much growth, right? All of those things, egg production. Healthier animals are more productive animals. So these are areas where the people who want more data and the people who want more production and the veterinarians are all aligned, right? We want healthier, happier animals, and the people who want production want that to happen, right? So that's where investment is going to pay off in spades, right? Because we're talking about animals who don't necessarily have to be three-legged lame on the feedlot before we discover that they need care. We can get to that beforehand. We can get to it before that animal needs to be slaughtered to cut its losses, right? Or cut our losses. So lots of possibility and potential there. Lots of things that we need, lots of hurdles we need to cross to get there, though.
Oh, John, you're muted.
Still muted.
Okay, I'm good now, right?
Yes.
Okay, I feel like it's been we've come a long way in AI. I think things are getting a lot more advanced, a lot more useful. But even a year later, I think we really still need to be strong at validation and human oversight. I feel like we're not. I think we're still having to have the training wheels on and have that human side, validating the things that are coming through it until we get a little more confident on the information coming out of it.
One last thought. Sorry.
Yeah.
Love the name FlareVet. We've stuck with it for over a year. Petra was one of our first guests. Should we consider changing it to Crumple Zone? Should we be the Crumple Zone? And
no, weren't you listening? We can't be we're supposed to not be the Crumple Zone.
How about staying away or staying out of the crumple zone? Like just kind of like avoiding the crumple zone. Let me think about that.
People want to watch the Crumple Zone, though.
And I think our logo, I don't know if anybody has seen the post on LinkedIn, but our logo should be Petra's drawing of the car hitting a tree and catching on fire, which I was like I hope that the tree is not FlareVet or the car. Like I hope she doesn't mean that this podcast sucks and is gonna go to shit and we're gonna just go up in flames. So I'm glad it didn't have anything to do with that.
You should use AI and just make it like this giant CGI explosion with like body parts all over the place. It's just make it dramatic.
Hey, it's already happening. You just said it. It's gonna be an AI image for sure. All right. Any final thoughts? I think we're down to the final minute here.
No, guys, thank you so much for having me. This has been
great.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks so much. We really respect you, and I think you're somebody that practices medicine and is way in the front lines of AI. And I think that combination, the industry is so lucky to have you.
Well, I'll bring my tin hat next time.
Oh, please, yes.
Okay.
And then we'll have to get one, Greg. Next time, we all wear tin hats.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next month. All right.
Adios.